In everyone's mind, Costa Rica pops up as a tropical paradise, full of amazing beaches, lush mountains, and that famous Pura Vida vibe. It's a place that pulls in retirees, digital nomads, and dreamers looking for a peaceful life, far from the rush of big cities. But real life doesn't always match that perfect postcard. Even though thousands of foreigners move there every year, many end up going back to their home countries or looking for new adventures. But what really happens? Why do some, after a while, decide to go back home? Today we're going to dive into the main reasons for this. From culture shock to unexpected costs to safety, the tropical weather, loneliness, or the bureaucracy that makes you feel at home, laughs. We'll look closely at the things that turn the dream of paradise into an unexpected challenge. First, culture shock, bureaucracy, and misaligned expectations. One of the most common reasons many foreigners leave Costa Rica is culture shock. It's hard to get used to a lifestyle that's very different from your own. Arriving with the dream of finding a perfect paradise where everything is easier quickly bumps into the other side of the coin. Slow processes, unpredictable schedules, and a lot of paperwork that can test even the calmest person's patience. Many foreigners think moving is like a long vacation, but they find out that living in a country is different from just visiting it. Government offices close early, administrative tasks involve too much paperwork, and the phrase mañana doesn't always mean tomorrow, but an unknown time. This more relaxed way of doing things often clashes with people from cultures where efficiency and speed are very important. What starts as a small annoyance can turn into constant frustration. Also, many people see Costa Rica as the answer to their personal problems, thinking that moving to a beautiful place would solve their lack of motivation or purpose. But the truth is, personal problems travel with you no matter the scenery. When expectations are not realistic and you don't give yourself enough time to adjust, disappointment sets in. Overcoming this challenge needs patience, flexibility, and being willing to accept that the rules of the game are different, something not everyone can do. 2. Extreme weather and driving risks. Even though Costa Rica is a paradise with lots of different plants and animals, the weather can become a big problem for those who decide to live there. The rainy season, which can last for many months, turns roads into instant rivers, causing floods and cutting off many areas. On the other hand, the dry season isn't always easier. It brings high temperatures, bad droughts, and in some places, wildfires. This double-sided weather means you have to get used to extreme conditions that surprise people who only know the country from short vacations. But what worries many people who live there the most is how the weather and the roads combine. The roads aren't always in good shape. Dirt roads, deep potholes, and bad road signs make driving a real challenge. When it rains hard or fog covers the mountains, driving can become really dangerous. There are countless stories of foreigners who have been in accidents or felt scared while driving in their daily lives. On top of that, the local driving style can seem careless to those from countries with stricter rules. The lack of good public transportation outside the capital means you have to rely on a car, which increases your chances of facing these dangers. In short, the extreme weather and bad roads mean that the idea of driving through beautiful paradise-like scenery bumps up against a reality that's much less perfect and for some unbearable. Number 3. Product scarcity and import costs. One of the biggest shocks for new arrivals is realizing that daily life can be more expensive and limited than they expected. Costa Rica puts high import taxes on a lot of products. This really drives up the price of items that are common in other countries. Things like electronics, cars, designer clothes, or special foods can cost 2 or 3 times more here than, say, in Italy or other countries. Even basic items like kitchen tools or some medicines aren't always easy to find. This can be pretty frustrating for people who are used to having a lot of choices and variety. Empty supermarket shelves, not being able to find specific products, or having to settle for lower quality substitutes are just part of everyday life. At first, the surprise might even be a little funny, but over time, it becomes a real headache. Paying more for less can make you feel like you're being punished for deciding to move there. Some people learn to adjust, to buy local products, to lower their expectations, and to enjoy fresh, seasonal fruits and vegetables at good prices. But not everyone can do that. For those whose lifestyle is really tied to specific brands or shopping habits, adapting becomes a real challenge. This daily struggle from food to getting around makes many people wonder if this tropical paradise is really worth so many sacrifices when it comes to what's available and their budget. Fourth, the relative cost of living. The cost of living in Costa Rica is one of the most talked about topics among those who decide to move to the country. On one hand, it's true that it can be much more affordable than cities like New York, Los Angeles, or San Francisco. Lower rents, access to fresh fruits and vegetables at good prices, and a relatively affordable healthcare system mean many find financial relief there. A single person can live modestly on about $1,200 a month, while a couple looking for a certain level of comfort might need between $2,000 and $2,500. However, the picture changes depending on what you're comparing it to. For those coming from more affordable regions of the United States or countries with moderate costs, expenses in Costa Rica can be similar or even higher. A good example of this is electricity. High rates, plus constant air conditioning use in coastal areas, drive up monthly bills. The same goes for fuel, whose price often exceeds the regional average. Another point is housing costs. In tourist areas, rental and purchase prices have increased due to foreign demand, making property access more expensive. The result is a mixed perception. For some, Costa Rica is an economic haven, for others a surprisingly expensive country. In reality, it all depends on the lifestyle each person is looking for. Adapting to local consumption can keep expenses low, but imitating Western habits tends to multiply them. Fifth point, safety and crime perception. Costa Rica has a worldwide reputation as a peaceful country, with no army and a peace index that's higher than many other places in the world. In its region, it's often seen in a good light when compared to nearby countries, which gives it the image of a safe haven in Central America. But this doesn't mean it's free from safety problems. In cities and tourist spots, thefts, attacks, and break-ins happen fairly often, and foreigners who don't know the area and are seen as having more money are often easy targets. Even though most crimes aren't violent, they make people feel like they're always in danger. It's not unusual for people who live there to stay in gated communities, put bars on their windows, or hire private security. These steps, while they work, don't match the first idea of a peaceful life in a natural paradise. Also, stories about real estate scams, administrative tricks, or break-ins spread quickly among groups of expats, causing worry. What's interesting is that, even with these issues, Costa Rica still ranks very high in global safety lists compared to the United States or Latin America in general. The difference is in how it's seen. Those who move there looking for complete peace might be let down when they face safety measures they never thought about. The main thing to understand is that safety is not absolute and needs you to adjust, which not everyone is ready to do for a long time. Sixth, wonderful but also demanding nature. Costa Rica is famous worldwide for its biodiversity and natural richness. Tropical forests, volcanoes, paradise beaches, and green mountains make this country a dream destination for thousands of travelers. For those who decide to move here, this same nature is part of the charm. Waking up to birds singing, seeing monkeys in the garden, or enjoying a sunset by the sea seems like an unmatched luxury. However, living in harmony with nature also has its downsides. Constant humidity causes mold on house walls, quickly ruining clothes and causing problems for appliances. Insects are a whole other story. Mosquitoes, cockroaches, and ants can easily invade your home, no matter how clean it is. Also, mosquito-borne diseases like dengue or chikungunya are a real risk at certain times of the year. In coastal areas, high temperatures make air conditioning a must, which significantly increases electricity bills. On the other hand, the rainy season brings gray days, storms, and power or internet outages that make daily life harder. In rural areas, it's not uncommon to be without water for hours. The natural beauty also hides risks. Earthquakes, volcanic eruptions, floods, and landslides are part of life in this country. Those who aren't willing to accept these conditions realize that paradise has its price. What seems like an exciting adventure on vacation, in daily life becomes a constant reminder that nature, besides giving, sometimes sends the bill. Seventh, social isolation and distance from family. Moving to another country isn't just about getting used to a new culture, it's also about leaving behind your personal connections. Many expats look for peace and quiet in Costa Rica, but over time they realize that being far from family and friends weighs more heavily than they thought. Retirees especially often struggle with this. At first, they enjoy the tropical setting, but then they miss their children and, even more so, their grandchildren. Daily life is full of moments when they wish they could share holidays, family get-togethers, or just emotional closeness. Even with today's technology, video calls don't replace physical touch or the spontaneity of meeting in person. Another factor is language and culture. Even though many Costa Ricans are friendly and welcoming, building deep friendships takes time and effort. For those who don't speak Spanish, the language barrier becomes a wall that stops them from fitting in. Some end up only hanging out with other expats, which creates a kind of social bubble that can make feelings of loneliness even stronger. Added to this loneliness, in some cases, is the difficulty of getting used to rural communities where life is more secluded. As the years go by, the unavoidable question comes up: is it worth being on a paradise beach if the result is living far from those you love most? For many, the answer is no, and this is one of the main reasons they decide to go back to their home country. Number 8, racism and the feeling of not belonging. Even though Costa Rica seems like a welcoming and peaceful country, some expats, especially those from different ethnic backgrounds, have shared stories of being treated unfairly and experiencing racism. For many white foreigners from the US or Europe, it's usually easier to fit in. But for people of African descent or other ethnic groups, things can be very different. There have been reports of small, subtle acts of unfairness and even more obvious problems for African American expats, like seeing offensive symbols in some areas. While these incidents aren't common or true for all of Costa Rican society, they deeply affect those who experience them. Feeling watched, judged, or left out makes it hard to adjust and breaks the dream of finding a place to start a new life. The lack of different types of people is also a factor. In many expat communities, you don't always see a lot of cultural variety, which makes people who don't fit the main group feel even more alone. Even though open racism isn't the usual thing, there's a strong sense of national pride that, in some situations, can feel like rejection towards foreigners, especially when it comes to things like owning land, jobs, or changes in neighborhoods that push out locals. For those who dream of fully fitting in, finding these problems can be painful and in some cases make them decide to leave for good. The idea of living surrounded by beautiful nature loses its appeal when you feel like the social environment doesn't allow you to truly belong, which leads some to go back to a place where they feel more accepted. Number 9, the accumulation of small everyday problems. Besides big things like the cost of living, safety, or being far from family, it's often the total of small but constant hassles that, in the end, makes many people leave Costa Rica. Daily life is full of situations that, over time, test your patience. Power outages in the middle of the day while you're working from home, water shutoffs without warning, an unstable internet connection right when you need it most, banks where you have to wait hours in line to fix simple things, or public workers who give conflicting information. All of this is part of daily life. Plus, there's the traffic in the capital, where a few miles can take hours, the poor signage that makes you get lost every time, or the local habit of giving unclear directions like go straight and turn right at Uncle Joe's house. What might be funny at first over time becomes a mountain of frustration. Problems with the house also add up. Constant upkeep because of the high humidity, furniture getting ruined, or needing to spend money constantly on repairs. Even weather problems like storms that block roads or unbearable mosquito infestations weigh more heavily when they happen at the same time as health or work problems. The sum of all this leads to a feeling of being worn out, which makes you wonder if the quality of life you were looking for has really been found. In many cases, the decision to leave isn't because of one big dramatic event, but the constant repetition of small hurdles that chip away at the first excitement until it becomes clear that paradise can cost too much emotionally. The uncertain future and long-term planning. Moving to Costa Rica can be an exciting adventure, but when it comes to settling down for the long haul, new uncertainties pop up. Many expats start with tourist visas that they have to renew every few months, which makes them leave the country regularly, a process known as a visa run. While some see it as a nice chance to travel, in the long run, it becomes an extra cost and burden. Getting a legal residency permit isn't always easy. The procedures are long, they need tons of documents, and in many cases, help from lawyers who charge a lot of money. This legal uncertainty causes a lot of worry for those looking for stability. Also, the idea of getting older in a foreign country brings up questions. Will they have access to good medical care if they get seriously sick? What will happen to their pensions and benefits from their home countries? Even though Costa Rica has a strong healthcare system and is known as a place for medical tourism, not everyone feels sure about their future. On top of that, there's worry about inheritances or buying property. There are reports of scams and problems with registration, which makes people question legal safety. Many expats realize that even though temporary life has its charm, a lifelong commitment needs certainties that the country doesn't always offer. Because of this lack of clarity, some choose to go back to their home country or look for other places where long-term planning is more predictable and stable. Costa Rica continues to be one of the most attractive places in the world for those looking for nature, peace, and a fresh start. But it's not a perfect place, and it's not for everyone. The culture shock, hidden costs, relative safety, challenging weather, and being far from family are things that can weigh on you over time. Also, the legal uncertainty and all the little everyday problems that pile up can turn a dream into a burden. For those who can adjust with patience, flexibility, and a realistic mindset, Costa Rica can become a rewarding home. But for others, the difficulties end up outweighing the good parts. In the end, it's important to understand that moving doesn't mean running away from reality, but rather trading one reality for another. And not everyone is willing to pay the price for this paradise.